Violet Evergarden is not an anime about a pretty girl in a magic garden, which is what I thought it was about because its name sucks, hence why it took me so long to get to it. Magical gardens, just not my steez. Turns out, this anime is actually about a pretty girl named Violet Evergarden who could rip your esophagus out with one hand. Originally a light novel, Violet Evergarden won the grand prize in Kyoto Animations 2014 novel category and was thus published under their imprint in 2015. Like most incredible works of fiction from Japan, it eventually got an anime adaptation, and here we are. And it is certainly a bold story in every way. The animation by Kyoani is gorgeous and flawless as you would expect from one of the best animation studios in the world. However, its story and pacing asks a lot from the viewer. It asks you to be patient, to think, to take some time to just be with Violet and try to understand her. And because of this, coupled with the many past tragedies experienced within the narrative, many people come out of the experience believing the show is simply a sad, melancholy story. However, this could not be farther from the truth, and I'm gonna tell you why. This is Violet Evergarden. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on everybody? Mike here. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about the very best community on the web, our Patreon. You don't believe me? Well, why don't you take a second right now to pause and check out one of our delightful Patreon testimonials. Look, what it comes down to is that YouTube can be a very difficult website to deal with. We can absolutely not depend on it to show you our new videos on your homepage, sometimes not even in your subscription boxes. And we've gotten multiple reports that notifications aren't working even when they are on and all permissions are given. The one thing that you can do to definitely assure yourself that you see our new videos is to check our channel page once a week on Saturdays. And when it comes to weirder content that we're planning on making very soon, like Hellsing or G Gundam, which will be here in October and November respectively, YouTube doesn't really care about things that aren't trending, so you want to see that. Well, the question is, why do we make those videos? And the answer is we make them because it makes us happy, and we know that it makes you happy. So for the low entrance fee of $1, not only can you join the best community on the web, but you can also help support us in continuing to make content on anime that deserves to be talked about. And you'll also get access to some videos that YouTube just deemed inappropriate to be on their platform. So if you would like to get a shout out like our very lucky patron, Young Chef Caillou, or our Super Saiyan God, one of our highest tiers who we love so much, Arxal, or to simply support us making great content on the anime that you want to see be talked about, think about joining the cult. We got unlimited Kool-Aid, and we'd love to see you there. But for now, let's talk about Violet Evergarden. Violet is a young girl with metal arms and a resting deadpan face. We meet her as she's being released from medical care into the custody of the now retired army commander, Claudia Hodgins. It immediately becomes clear that Violet isn't exactly normal. She's extremely indoctrinated as a soldier and doesn't seem to understand how to act like a civilian at all. Mostly because, as far as she remembers, she never was a civilian. Now, the anime kind of goes into this, however, the light novels have much more to say. Violet was found on an island by a naval officer named Dietfried Bougainvillea, who was forced to make landfall after a battle at sea. A couple of his less disciplined seamen attempted to make some grape juice with this poor young girl, so she slaughtered them. She then stalked and killed every other soldier in his company as well, sparing only Dietfried. Why she spared him is a complete mystery, but she also obeyed his orders without question and has no memory of her life before she was attacked by the Navy men. Dietfried decided to take her home with him and hand her off to his brother, Major Gilbert Bougainvillea, as a tool or a weapon of war. Gilbert then proceeded to train her as such, covering her military activities with a special operatives unit. She willingly and dutifully followed every single one of his orders unflinchingly. And as the war began to come to a close, Violet confronted Gilbert about his plans for her when it was all over. She stated that she only wished to follow his orders forever, which was something that Gilbert could not understand. However, their final mission was about to begin, and their conversation was cut short. During this last assault on the enemy army, Violet and Gilbert successfully infiltrated the opposition's stronghold. Gilbert was shot and wounded before their fleeing foes bombed their own fort in a scorched earth maneuver, leaving the two trapped in a hellish firestorm. As Violet tries to flee with the injured Gilbert, she gets her arm blown off by an enemy soldier. Taking the hit in stride, she continues their escape until the pair are hit by a grenade, costing Violet her remaining arm. Bleeding out and dying on a staircase in the crumbling fort, Violet desperately tries to get Gilbert to his feet using only her teeth. However, knowing the end is inevitable, the Major refuses, telling Violet that all he wants is for her to live a normal life, and his last words to her are, "I love you." Now, this backstory is doled out very slowly over the course of the anime, piecing parts of Violet together as we watch her deal with learning how to fulfill the Major's last wishes and coming to grips with what he meant when he told her, "I love you." And if you haven't got it by now, Violet is a broken person. Whatever happened to her before the sailors arrived must have been traumatic, as it resulted in complete amnesia, a rare side effect of post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as head injuries. Judging by this story, I think we know which one Violet dealt with. The only person she had any kind of relationship with is now dead, and her only purpose for existing is now gone. She also doesn't have the tool set the average person would have at their disposal to attempt recovery and move on. She doesn't even understand the concept of love, or any emotion at all, really. She doesn't even know how to make expressions with her face. However, under the care of Hodgins, she now begins working at his CH postal company and becomes fascinated by the auto memory dolls, which is a unit of women scribes who interpret people's feelings into letters for them. Violet sees the way these women can listen to someone's story and weave it into a beautiful message that can fully express the dictator's true feelings. And due to her desire to understand the Major's last words to her, she works diligently to become an auto memory doll. However, she runs headfirst into a wall. You see, despite her seemingly innate ability to dispatch humans at an alarming rate, Violet is innocent like a child. While she was in the military, she didn't realize the weight of human life. She didn't understand human emotions. She simply did as she was told. And of course, blindly following orders is the easiest way to deal with guilt because you were just doing what you were told. Anyway, because of this innocence, she could be considered brutally honest, which obviously can obstruct someone trying to express themselves in a way that they deem appropriate. And in turn, she inadvertently exposes a social norm of lying. Because Violet Evergarden isn't a story about war. It isn't a story about loss. It's a story about communication. Communication is something that seems so natural it hardly warrants a thought throughout a typical day, but it's arguably the most important tool we have in our set as human beings. In order to function in groups, we need to not only understand the words of others, but we need to understand their emotions and their desires as well as express our own. While this is a daily exercise, it's also something most of us don't even realize we are terrible at. And while you can be a recluse, in order to function at your peak, you have to have relationships. Isolation has incredibly destructive side effects on the human psyche to the point where it can drive you completely insane. So while Violet can type extremely well, especially when listening to somebody else over 200 words a minute, because she doesn't understand herself, she isn't able to understand other people's feelings or the way that they desire to express them. One of her first jobs is writing for a woman who is playing hard to get. Not understanding the manipulation technique, Violet writes down exactly what the woman says, which was basically, buy me stuff and flaunt your wealth, and maybe I'll consider your proposal. Obviously, when this man got his letter, he was less enthused about his proposition and turned the woman away, who then returns to CH Postal in tears, explaining that she truly loved the man and never wanted him to think of her like that. She just didn't want him to lose interest in her if she was too quick to say yes. Right off the bat, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you take away the layers of learned behavior, social constructs, gender norms, media influence, the way we talk to each other is ridiculous. This scenario, viewed through the innocent eyes of Violet, must have been baffling. So rarely do we actually say what we mean, how we really feel, because it leaves us open to vulnerability. Playing hard to get is a defense. It's a facade to make it seem like you are worth more, maybe because you think less of yourself. And you don't want to be vulnerable because anytime we are vulnerable, we're giving somebody the possibility to hurt us in a lasting way, and we have to trust that they won't. And this year, more than any other, it seems that we are all at each other's throats. That nothing anyone says is right, that no matter how heartfelt the message, it will automatically be misinterpreted and thrown back in the writer's face. In a time period where the majority of us are more isolated than we've ever been, this deconstruction of our communicative bonds cuts deeper than it ever has. And I doubt any of you have come away unscathed at this point, because like a seemingly benign tool turned into a murder weapon, communication can be weaponized as well. As Violet progresses as an auto communication doll, she also matures as a person, and throughout her travels, she meets people from all walks of life, from an actual princess to a dying mother to a scholar or a grieving author, all of whom become normal people with similar wants and desires when they open up to Violet. It's a natural desire to want to express yourself, to make other people understand how you feel. However, doing so can be very painful or frightening, or for someone like Violet, potentially impossible. Feelings are extremely personal and effervescent. They exist within the physical universe, but are only truly accessible to the one feeling them. Understanding, distilling, and then expressing those feelings is an entirely different challenge, but ultimately makes the whole difference between the truth and a lie. The use of words like tool and doll in the series are used to accentuate this concept. The idea that while we are flesh and blood, what makes us who we are is on a different plane of existence. Our physical bodies can be considered tools or doll-like in the way that we use them primarily to express the thoughts and feelings that exist only within us. So while everyone passes away, no matter how strong or impervious they may seem, important parts of them can live on within the people they contacted if that contact was heartfelt and true. The Major left Violet with the words, "I love you," and her journey to discover the meaning of these words showed their sincerity and purity. Those 3 words meant so much, but they were so simple. They're expressed throughout every facet and every story within this anime, from the mother who wrote a letter to her daughter for her next 45 birthdays because she knew she wasn't going to be there. They were felt with the playwright who brought his deceased daughter's dreams to the stage. Violet Evergarden isn't sad. It's a celebration of life and living on through the hearts of people you touched with your words, your honesty, and your love. It's a story of realizing and accepting and feeling your empathy. As Violet begins to understand others, she also begins to understand herself. The toll of the lives on her hands begins to hurt in a way she never imagined, because through her experiences, she realizes how precious life is, how short it can be, and how painful the loss of it is for those who are impacted by its existence. Violet Evergarden is about the necessity of this communication and the effect simple words can have on the people around you when they are conveyed with conviction. That if we don't take the time now to tell people how we truly feel, that we may never get the chance until it is too late. That even if we're far away from one another, we can still reach through that space to tell someone we love them through simple words written down on a piece of paper. That even if somebody passes away, their effect will remain with us and be imparted onto those who we come in contact with down the road. And in that way, we are all truly connected by a natural human empathic bond. So in the spirit of all this, I decided to write you a letter. Dear viewer, thank you so much for watching. It makes me very happy. I hope you will come back, and thank you so much for giving me your time. It makes me feel less alone when I can talk to you like this. I'm grateful for you. Mike.